It was a modern miracle, an economy that grew nearly 100% in just one decade. The new buildings tell a story of high-tech affluence, the fourth richest country per capita in Europe. But for all the modern steel and glass, this is a very deceptive picture, because here in Ireland the boom has definitely gone bust, and the Celtic tiger very much one of the sick kittens of Europe. The facade of wealth is just that. Stressed banks aren't lending, unemployment is skyrocketing, and confidence is evaporating. Just ask a cabbie.
I'm 51 years of age, and I'm working longer now than I was 10 years ago, for probably less money because of the downturn, because the taxi industry has been decimated. There's too many taxis. Plus, my son has been let go recently, who was training to be a motor fitter, and he's 19 nearly, can't get a job, no prospects. I don't know what's going to happen.
From about 2003 onwards, you had a housing boom which became a bubble, and by the peak in 2006, 2007, 14% or more of the economy was actually building houses. Now that's not sustainable. In the norm in OECD area would be about 5% of the economy.
It's a drama already for many, including architect Sharon Rolfe. She and her partner moved into their dream home just last year. 2 weeks ago, she lost her job.
We have serious negative equity. We can't sell. If we sold, we would owe the bank more than a third of more than what we'd sell it for.
The couple own 2 investment properties, both rented. The tenants have lost their jobs, and despite a daily search, there's not even an interview, let alone an offer of work.
Can you believe the transition of fortunes from one year to the next?
No. I think that's the biggest shock of everything, is how fast and how bad the banking system really was.
While you can still find a construction site actually constructing, there are also plenty of empty shells where the industry lubricant, money, has dried up.
Nobody is getting paid. The big developers that choose to build the hotels and the office blocks and so on have run out of money, so the main contractors haven't been paid. They haven't been paying their subbies, and right down along the line to the builders, providers, and in some cases the workers haven't been paid.
In the distance, some of the cranes that once marked prosperity now pinpoint financial disaster. With the capital squeezed and jobs juiced, something has to give.
And the government will have to raise taxes in the recovery phase, and also you're going to see a fall in wage rates here, which has not really happened in the OECD area before.
The workers, united, will never be defeated!
This is the result of a government proposal to slash spending, with what amounts to a pay cut for all public sector workers. More than 100,000 people took to the streets of Dublin, accusing the government of looking after failed bankers better than honest workers.
We want to be treated fairly. We want the rich to be taxed. And we want the normal people who have worked and made these people rich to get a fair crack at the whip. And that's all we want.
Despite the anger, the Irish government says it has no choice as it tries to find savings of $5 billion.
When we're spending 20 billion out of a budget of 55 billion on public sector pay, something's got to give. It's really hard on public sector workers, but they're in a job. Most of them have reasonably good pensions. And unfortunately, it's just going to have to work out like this, maybe for this year and next year.
Conceivably, I might never work again. Or let me put it this way, I might never work again in my profession, but I'm damned if I won't keep myself useful and involved in getting some sort of income.
At 60 and a lifetime's experience as an architect, Stephen O'Brien is having to adjust to a new reality. He's been looking for a job for 8 months, but there simply aren't any. And with up to 80% unemployment amongst architects, even overseas options are fast drying up.
I think what makes this particular recession different from my point of view, and a lot of people would agree with this, Philip, is the fact that it happened very quickly, wasn't really foreseen, certainly wasn't budgeted for, accelerated much faster than any of us thought it would, and hit much harder, and hit us all more profoundly.
It's a whole lot worse here. Called Trust, this organisation has been looking after Dublin's homeless for 30 years.
So really what we're seeing now is exactly what we saw 30 years ago, except that people, many of the people who end up homeless now are people who thought they would never become homeless, people who've been to university and all of that, and then people coming from the European states.
The majority of the people here are from Eastern Europe, lured by the promise of jobs and good money during the housing boom, now the first to be laid off. Some turn to drink and drugs, sapping mental and physical health.
Very hot, Peter.
A lot of very bad feet, because they're walking all the time, continuously walking from one place to another. They're not getting new shoes, they're getting maybe shoes that somebody else have worn, so their feet, I am dressing feet all the time, very bad blisters, very bad trench foot. Where they
Trench foot?
Trench foot, yeah, that they had in the First World War. They cannot take off their shoes, because if they take off their shoes, they're robbed.
And as more migrants compete for fewer jobs, the inevitable resentment creeps in from the local unemployed.
The Irish aren't racist, do you know what I mean? But with people being Polish working in a shop and a person from Ireland working in, having not that job, that shop job, that should be the Irish job, it's hard. There's a lot of resentment there.
After years of plenty, the harsh realities are a shock for a country comfortable with good times. Down by the river, a reminder of the potato famine, when 1 million starved and another 1 million fled the country. Well, no one's dying this time, but an old Irish export may be revived. Thousands of its best and brightest leaving for places like Australia. Philip Williams, Lateline.